and the API 2.0, talk about a couple of things, go through any issues that we know of that we need to fix, that sort of thing. Then the Alpha.9 release, which should be out by the end or very soon. Looking at the 3.0 beta release, Liquid Shop conference, and then any questions and answers. I'll try and manage and keep an eye on the chat, both in Jitsi, YouTube, and chat.libretime.org. So if you have any questions or anything to contribute, by all means, add comments there. I'll try and read them out, or join us on Jitsi. The links are in the chat.libretime.org or on discourse. So come on and join us here. Right, so I guess let's get on to progress reports. The Vue PR. Lucas, you've muted yourself.
Yeah. I need to. I got pretty far along actually with what I've been preparing as a Vue PR. It's already somewhat based on API 2.0, so I'll be glad if we talk about that as well. For the most part, I think maybe I over-engineered it a bit actually. It's still using Vuetify. I didn't end up switching back in quotation marks to something Bootstrap based. It's also still Vue 2 based because Vue 3 just simply didn't seem viable. But as soon as like Alpha.9 and the API stuff is really out of the gate, I think it won't be that much work to finalize it. It's still marked as a draft on GitHub, but I think it's more or less at the stage where looking at it could make sense.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I haven't had a chance to look at it yet, but I'm very excited for it. And once the API 2 is in, it'll be nice to get that sorted, and we can start converting stuff and getting stuff over properly, so we can get rid of the issues that we experiencing with PHP. Cool. Then the API 2.0 is up for review. The PR is there. It's ready. There are failing tests that I need to look at still. So it's Travis pipeline is failing, and I also want to make sure, like, do a retest of the full pipeline. So scheduling a show, make sure that it actually plays out, and that the master and show sources work, because there was quite a large rewrite of the API client Python app, so that I didn't end up ripping out much of it. I've done it in such a way that you can steadily replace certain bits of it. So the majority of it is still using API 1.0. It's just the get schedule endpoint that's currently using 2.0. But yeah, getting it kind of to talk the same language as what the things that use API clients expect was quite challenging. So I need to make sure that works as expected, and ideally add tests to make sure that it works properly through CI.
I think I even tested some of that on my dev local branch, where I already had some of your API endpoint refactorings on my working copy, whilst also doing a vagrant destroy and up again.
Okay,
I'm
cool.
pretty confident in those changes.
Cool, yeah, and I also noticed that Alpha.8 is currently broken because of pip stuff. So getting a release and then getting this done is, I think, a high priority. Cool. Is anyone else working on anything that they want to talk about, highlight, anything like that? Okay, cool. Then issues on our radar. As I said, that alpha.8 issues on mine. And then there was, I'll just try find the other ones that were on mine. But does anyone else have anything else that they're wanting to work on, look at, important that we address?
Well, I know that the Zach or Zay Klosko is currently working on replacing the JavaScript based or the Flash based player. Is that currently something that anybody's tested? Is that no? Do we know if that's working? The replacing Muse with Howler.js.
I've been following the PR, but I haven't actually tested it.
Okay, yeah, I haven't tested it yet either, but that seems like that's something that's kind of been an issue for a while, just the different issues that we have with our built-in widgets. So I don't
Yeah.
know, that'd probably be a good thing for us to check on. I'm not sure if he's going to make it to the meeting or not.
For me, all of those have always been a bit on the back burner since they always seem to like concern the microsite and related stuff. And if we like to decide to rip that out, then what worth is fixing it, kind of. And I know we also need a play out solution for like the listen button in the main user interface, but to be honest, I don't have a need for that.
Yeah,
I've got plenty of solutions to listen to the actual audio stream. Even if one of them is just opening the Icecast user interface and clicking play there.
Yeah, the issue is that it's enforcing HTTPS. The JavaScript is doing it. So changing that kind of fixes it, but then you need to, like, it's using the IP address instead of the fully qualified domain name. Then you need to go to the settings and just swap it, save it, that's it. I mean, that's a workaround. What really needs to be done is like either choose if we can deploy the Icecast, which is being deployed anyway using SSL certs, and we can use Let's Encrypt certs. And yeah, same for the actual site. So maybe having just a parameter during the installation to set if it's a development or local site or a production one, it can like deploy the certs. It's not that hard to do.
Like my deployment is spread across multiple VMs, and I found that the only way to get that working is to configure different Icecast URLs in the airtime.conf. So there is clearly something wrong there. I, for one, would like to be able to configure like the external URL that gets used to build like web URLs and stuff differently compared to what the internal like endpoint is.
We almost need a backend URL or backend host config setting.
Most systems I know do it the other way around and have like a front end setting, but yeah. Because if you have it as a front end setting, it can also take account of there being like load balancing infrastructure,
Yeah.
Cloudflare, whatnot in front of it.
Yeah, makes sense. Actually, there's three like three servers. It can be either Shoutcast or Icecast. So maybe just setting the first one to be the internal one and the second one to be the public one, that could fix it. That's like also a bit of workaround, but it takes less code, right? So pointing the internal, like the internal player, the listen player on the admin interface to the first configured like streaming server, and then using the second one, which is like going public. It can actually also be done using the same IceCast server if we set the first one to be hidden, right? Because like you can hide the the mount point in IceCast. So yeah, that might be an option.
There's is in the like pop-up window that does the player thing. Isn't there a drop down where you can select which
Yeah,
configured stream you'd
Yeah.
like to listen to?
yeah, yeah, totally.
So it would be something in the area of that
I'm
where we
saying
would need
that
to do
instead of that
changes.
drop down menu, you just like default to the first one. And the second one, the second streaming server, you like make it public on your IceCast server. That does that make sense?
I think it does, but for me it's something I've never used actually, because I have my separately managed Icecast anyway.
Yeah.
And I'm not gonna like update LibreTime to like enforce that your setup will work like the distributed setup I have at my station. So for me, that's a lot of these things are kind of like, well, the out of the box configuration with this default streaming thing, which was very much written for the Airtime Pro offering, is something I'd rather just replace with not doing that and just replace with we have a default that works out of the box, and from then on out, it's up to you to provide a proper Icecast solution. Because I personally, I think in most cases, the way we can provide Icecast out of the box isn't something that will work for your specific needs anyway. Most stations don't only need Icecast, they also need somewhere to do AAC+, like maybe via Shoutcast even, or and have other needs.
Yeah, makes sense. Like that, you mean? Yeah,
I would even opt for getting rid of that difference between the hard-coded streaming setup and the dynamic one where you have to opt into I'll configure my own Icecast.
Oh, is it
Configuring
just
your
like
own Icecast should be the standard thing to do, and it should have defaults that work like on a Vagrant developer machine. But in production, you're not going to use those unless you're like a very small startup, maybe internet station. But even then, most people have more opinionated studio setups already.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's good to have things work by as much as possible out of the box, but I mean, even then, like it will listen to an external server. If you click on listen and you're already going somewhere else, it will go to that external server, not the local one. I mean, because it doesn't use a local one. So yeah, I don't know. I think it could work. I mean, we do want to make things work as much as possible for people to just have no skill or no knowledge of this and they just want it to go. But I mean, so many people are using it already with just because it is the best free option out there in a lot of ways for people that want more complicated setups, something more than, and they don't want to pay Airtime Pro for one reason or another because that doesn't fit inside of their station's design.
I'm not sure if Airtime Pro is really what we're up against nowadays.
No.
Given it's more like people have maybe an Airtime buy-in from previous like vendor lock-in, and nowadays they're just not willing to switch to something like AzureCast because it misses so much.
Yeah.
Or at least for me personally, looking back, maybe I would have prototyped everything on AzureCast had that existed when I started. I don't know. We do have some things that make us unique.
Yeah.
But one of them is having reach, and that's not really something that makes us that much better because the technical stuff should be the differentiator.
Yeah. The only other thing that I kind of ran into is the realization that the way we do files has some serious shortcomings in terms of if you delete a file, it also goes back and deletes it from everything in the schedule. So if you were trying to keep an archive of what you played at any particular time and then you delete a file, not only does it have to go through a huge number of, linked cascading deletes, it also erases it from any history, at least inside of LibreTime of it, that file ever being played. And that is not the way that I imagined it worked before I
Me
started
neither, yeah.
realizing. And then when I actually did it, I was like, wow, oh wait, okay, luckily I'm not using the the archive to keep track of shows, but it seems like at some point, and maybe I can work on this, is creating this kind of idea that I've had all along, is archiving, where you maybe delete the actual file if you want to save space, or you at least keep the metadata and make the file marked quote unquote delete, so it hides it from the library, because I think that's what people would prefer to have happen. They don't imagine that they're deleting every recording of some specific song playing or whatever.
I've
when they
been
delete a
looking
file.
at the whole playout history stuff very much recently, and now that you explain it, I can totally understand why it's having so much issues. And one of them is that if you delete a file, it vanishes from the playout history.
Yeah.
I'm shocked.
And that's not what it wants to do, the playout history. In Switzerland, I have my own scope and I have everything done, but not that.
Yeah. So that was a big eye opener for me when I finally had to realize why it was taking hours to delete file, to run a SQL query just to delete files, and then realizing, wait, okay. So luckily I was able to work through it all, like to get a basic, cloud version of our server up for a few hours. It really didn't make much difference. I fixed it just by reinstalling the hard drive and putting it back at our transmitter. So, but yeah, I just thought I would give an update on that. I haven't created an issue for it yet, but that's one of those things that were legacy kind of designs that I don't even know if we're going to fix automatically through the API, but we will have to do some kind of analysis of the database and the way that it's set up to fix that. And maybe
so currently, yeah, the API, as far as I know, for the most part, does nothing on deletes. So we need to go through and work out what makes sense to cascade, what makes sense to ignore, and things like that. But we do need to rethink how the archiving works.
As far as I understood it, the API does a tiny amount of actual cascading, because some tables actually got a proper schema that does that. So by extension, the API would also cascade on those, but it really affects like 2 or 3 tables that were written during a time where someone who understood relational schemas was working on that exact part of the thing. But I noticed that as well when I was I'm still looking into the playout history thing, actually. It's just progress has been slow because of how everything is still like everything is.
Yeah.
But yeah, we will want to need to really look into how does deleting, cascading, retention work. And I even think we're gonna want to do that with the new API layer.
Yeah.
The old stuff will just do what it does right now, but getting really managed models up and running will be something that I think is something we're gonna want to do in Django.
Yeah. Okay, and then the Alpha.9 release.
Hey guys,
It pushed.
throw in.
Sorry, yeah.
Hang on, I've just
Yeah.
muted everybody.
Sorry.
Go on.
Sorry, I was I was going to speak and then thought I was on mute. Apologies.
No.
I'm not quite a newbie, but I've played with it. I've got a radio station that is traditional DAB and internet using a system called Jazzla out of Greece. And the only thing that stopped me moving to LibreTime, which I was very impressed with, is the ability to add songs en masse. And I've seen a couple of links. I think this is probably why I ended up getting involved in the forum. Is there any desire to automate, as it were, the sort of bulk import into LibreTime. I think it used to exist in AirTime, right?
There were. Are you talking about being able to upload 1 million songs into the thing, or are you talking about being able to like mount an existing maybe NFS share on your network into LibreTime and scan that? Is it the latter?
Yes, actually, I considered both, to be honest with you, because I thought, well, if I need to, I was running it out of in Google Cloud, and I thought, well, you know, I could put this stuff into cold storage, or, you know, and then when it gets called in, if it's a few milliseconds more on the latency, that's fine. But then, yes, I do happen to have all of the data in an NFS share. So either option is the short answer, and it's about
Personally, to be honest, one of the main blockers I still see for the real beta release is getting the what it's called watched folders feature back up and running, where you can simply take your existing audio archive, have it managed by whatever manages it currently. It could be Beats, it could be some tooling with Picard, whatever you're using to manage your stuff. At my station, it's a person that's actually paid to manage our library. We don't use LibreTime currently for like automated stuff. But for me, it's really a case of the watched folder feature needs to be fixed before the beta, and I think that would solve maybe 80-90% of all the issues we're seeing in this space. So once Alpha 9 is established and everything, it's even on my personal agenda to get that running, even though normally I govern my agenda by what my station needs, and this isn't something we're waiting for.
Got it. Thanks.
Looking at the PRs at the moment, there's 3 kind of stale ones for trying to solve this issue.
Yeah, the thing with those 3 is they all try to fix the old.
Yeah.
And right now, if I'm looking into that, I would wait for API 2 to get merged, the new user interface stuff to get along, and I would try to like greenfield it and really just solve it anew in a sustainable way, instead of trying to fix some code that might have been broken before we even forked. I don't know. I never used it.
It also could benefit from rethinking of how files are stored too, because that's one of the biggest issues. Is say a file gets deleted from the NFS, does LibreTime not know? Because LibreTime has no way of knowing or checking file integrity. I've had the issue the other day bit up that was like an old version of a file that somehow partially got uploaded. Somebody like, oh no, it went dead because LibreTime said it was 54 minutes because the metadata said that. When you download it, it's only, you know, so that it kind of fits into that too, because the fact of our library management has always been pretty lacking, like the fact you can't edit multiple tracks. So fixing this would probably be something good to do with the new API. And especially like kind of, I agree that we might need to because the media monitor was written in a much different way than Airtime Analyzer. Airtime Analyzer was strictly an import thing. They stripped away all the stuff that used iNotify kind of to keep track of everything. Like media monitor was written to be much more thorough. And then when that was just stripped away, that was one of the things that we, it was a step back in some regards. But it also was a benefit in terms of it didn't break. It wasn't a single process. It was kind of cloudified, that you could have multiple tracks importing at the same time through Analyzer. But the one I wrote was just like basically a script that would just digest stuff. It was kind of using that, and it wasn't really, and there are ways of kind of using some of the files to do that, but it doesn't get along the whole NFS and the fact that we're going to need to track files and recheck files and make sure that they exist periodically and do some kind of library. You don't want to, like, if a file gets deleted, you don't want to delete the instance of it from the LibreTime history either. So you want to have some kind of unique way to keep track of everything. Like this file existed at one point, it played at one point, and so therefore we need to know what we thought played at least.
Yeah, we need to retain like the metadata of what we were trying to play on our station at that point. I don't even think we need to remember where the file was stored originally. We just need to know that that was something that was played at some point.
Yeah. Otherwise, if we're using NFS and it doesn't mount at some point, you will get a lot of things deleted. Like maybe everything will be deleted from your database, and that's just something that can happen. So yeah, like maybe splitting, like history is history. No matter if you delete all of your files, that's it.
My station is seemingly a bit bigger than most, so we have like an already very much over-engineered infrastructure for this. And I can share that infrastructure with you because it is actually all on GitHub, but for I think most of your cases, it's not something we would like to integrate as a default into LibreTime because it simply does much more. We use like ACR Cloud, this Chinese-based audio recognition service to generate actual track listings for those cases where we don't have them, and we do like manage downgrading of tracks. So if we record everything in WAV, downgrade it to FLAC, and we have like this retention mechanism where some things get stored as FLAC long term and others get degraded to the bare minimum with what we need for being responsible versus the state that wants to have like play out logs.
Share it.
Yeah, that might not be something we implement, but it would be good. I think, I think a lot of stations could benefit from that because I know I've been looking into like ACR Cloud as a possibility just for the people uploading as a mix. And you want to be able to like give the proper metadata for recording and for just the viewers, like listeners and anybody, and going back through, because I think that's also other stations are probably running into that issue as well. Because, and then, don't even get started about when you actually have people uploading individual MP3s and intros and outros, it creates the whole library itself becomes a complete mess of. I thought for a second, because we were having a VPN issues, that because everything's so Ajaxy, I thought that this new server I had or the new computer was just underpowered and we could no longer sort, but it was actually ended up just being a Open VPN 2.3 versus 2.4 had some weird issues. So it was some kind of corruption in the headers. It worked, but then it would randomly just sputter out and cause massive latency. But luckily that's not the case. We don't need to worry about LibreTime being too much that a 4-core processor is like not capable of running.
You're stuttering issues. Yeah.
So, but it is what it is. But I think it would be cool to see that, like some kind of white paper or some kind of explanation for or maybe even analysis for ways we could have extra layers that people could put into their LibreTime instance if they did want to try to match as much of that as possible. Because I know every country's different too in terms of their copyright law. Somebody was on there asking about Germany's reporting thing and how much the LibreTime doesn't really do very good for reporting. So you really kind of need to have another layer somewhere. And I don't know if there's other services that exist that people can just plug and play that listen to IceCast and they don't have to worry about doing it from LibreTime.
ACR Cloud is probably the only thing that the typical LibreTime user can afford.
Yeah.
I don't actually recollect how much it costs, but it's reasonable and you get reasonable results from it. And with reasonable results on our station, on the heavy playout stuff, we have like 80% recognition, which is actually laughable. But it doesn't cost that much, and the only provider that actually would be better in this regard, I think, is Gracenote. But their pricing is like contact sales. And my station isn't the kind of station that actually has enough money to contact sales. I mean, we do talk with sales, but if your base price is contact sales,
Yeah.
then I'm sorry, I'm gonna assume that it's way out of our league.
I did see something that provides a free API. I'll have to look through.
Let me
just
guess, they're based on ACR
ACR
Cloud.
Cloud, probably. I would almost guess for sure that they're just,
The
they
thing
just
that we
coded
all
up a little
use,
front end.
what's it called?
Yeah.
Snapshot? No, there's this one, Shazam. It's
Yeah,
ACR
Shazam.
Cloud it's ACR Cloud under the hood.
Yeah, no. That would
So
make
everything
sense.
is ACR Cloud at this point. And personally, ACR
Okay.
Cloud is woefully inadept for what we're trying to do. Because at my station, we have lots of these indie artists. They all have an ISRC number for reporting, but they're not in scope of all these large recognition services.
Yeah.
It's really frustrating, actually, because we built out our reporting infrastructure to ensure that we can support the small artists we play all of the time, and now we're realizing that a lot of this it's just not there.
Is there no way of updating or self-learning or? I'm thinking.
ACR Cloud is a paid thing, actually. It's a Chinese company.
Right.
They're like they're the company, not the company behind Shazam, but they're the AI thing that Shazam buys.
Right.
And I think it's really it was like $50 per year for a simple stream. So it's really not out of the league for even small broadcasters that actually need to do reporting.
Okay, and then in the chat, Trey Applegate echoes the watched folders would be awesome, and that they've also encountered issues with metadata being incorrect, so anything that fixes that would be helpful. Okay, cool. Then shall we move on to alpha.9?
I pushed it recently. The Travis thing failed, but I did a local build and pushed it. So the link that I actually put into the Storm Debian.net thing actually points to a release that has documentation. Please download it, try upgrading, give feedback. There might be bugs. We might need to push alpha.10 soon to get rid of those bugs. It's not running on my production yet, to be honest. So I'm really counting on all of you to give us feedback as soon as possible.
Cool, thanks. Yeah, and I'll test that as well and create the Ubuntu packages.
Yeah, my RPMs are still also. I haven't even started preparing those, to be honest. But yeah, packaging can commence now.
Cool, and then focuses for the 3.0 beta and release. I'll just get I'll put a link in there with the is it the project board? It's the milestone. It's a milestone.
For me personally, the watched folders thing, I was always under the impression a beta release would be something that would make it comfortable to all the ex-Airtime users, not Airtime Pro users, but classic Airtime users feel comfortable to migrate to, and the watch folders feature is the largest killer right now, in my opinion. Everything else, like being up to date, supporting modern liquid soap, stuff like that, we got covered. We need to fix the watch folders features.
Yeah, but now that Robert mentions this delete thing, I think that's something we need to fix. Like that's a major issue, I think.
I'm on board with calling it something that's bad, but it was just as bad in the old thing, in the old Airtime releases. it's not like a new issues. It's more of a limitation of how things work right now. Yeah, we want to fix them, but I'm also like kind of thinking the first beta shouldn't be like we rewrote everything to the new API. New API is going to be like LibreTime 3.0. And somehow we need to figure out how we can do a beta with LibreTime 2.0 like we're planning, without having too much contingency upon fixing stuff that's so fundamentally flawed that it needs to be like a backward-breaking major release. Maybe I'm not making sense.
No, I mean, considering this has been in place for a while and we're just now becoming aware of that limitation, it means that people have continued to, we really don't have proper reporting, tools. I only know if we fixed the Flash issue. That's another thing that's on there is like, we have Flash. Hey.
In 2021.
Yeah, so I think I agree. I quite like the idea of having a beta as essentially feature parity with airtime currently. I think it gives us quite a nice target to aim for, and then have the additional stuff that we need to fix and rewrite and completely change be more a
For me, it's less about feature parity and more about being a great migration target.
okay.
Like the SoundCloud stuff that we ripped out, which is actually an Airtime Pro feature. Yeah, we lost some feature parity with that, but we're still a great migration target for legacy Airtime users that have Airtime on-prem. And for me, that is the primary focus, that we're a great migration target. Don't care really about feature parity. Unless it's needed to be a great migration target, obviously.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree with that.
Yeah, I was always imagining that this would have happened, that we would have released the beta, like a year ago or maybe even a year and a half ago. But, and that we would then in turn do all this stuff in like the next version. But we're actually making a lot of progress, it seems, in terms of the new API and stuff. So I don't even know if that will be included in the beta or how we would,
If we get it running, we can include it as long as it doesn't like
break.
I'm all for introducing like the new Django API during or in the beta.
Okay.
It won't be a killer feature for the beta, in my opinion, but we can introduce it. We shouldn't block ourselves with waiting for it.
Yeah.
If we did like some really strict blocking, we wouldn't have introduced your auto playlists without waiting for having this magical beta thing, and that's not where we want to be.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I think that's a good target to aim for. And then we look at having more built in for a major release. Cool. Then our next item on the agenda is the Liquid Shop conference. So Liquid Shop is a conference for liquid soap, which we use on the back end of for streaming and play out and it's happening the Sunday, the 17th. You can register, and I think it's still open to register. But Lucas is presenting, which is quite cool, talking about the broadcaster's niche, why we contribute. And there's some other interesting like looks at radios, or radio stations that are using liquid soap ways of doing things, and maybe we can find some ways of or interesting things to use and to change in how we use liquid soap. So I'm interested in seeing what it's coming up with.
I'm very much looking forward to Liquid Soap 2.0
Yeah.
because I think that's what Roma Toots will is his main thing, because that he will be presenting on. Also, like, I might talk at the station with the broadcasters niche, how we contribute. Actually, the community radio broadcasters niche. When I look at it, I haven't written much of my talk. Most of it will be, or some of it will be, what I did at our inaugural meetup. If you have any inputs, something you'd like me to put in the slides, feel free to reach out. I'm going to be on Mattermost for at least until Sunday. Even if I'm offline in Mattermost, I might just be marked as offline. So really feel free to reach out to me if you want to get in on the talk or on its contents.
Is there a link to it anywhere? I know that it was inside of some pull request or comments, but we should put one on the chat.
I put one into the LibreTime Meetup Agenda Storm thing.
Yeah,
Okay.
so there's a link in the agenda.
Oh, okay. That's good.
The idea was that you register for it and then get sent the link to their BBB and Jitsi instance. The URLs are pretty obvious, but I don't know if I'm allowed to leak them, actually. So if anyone wants to get in on it without registering through Liquid Soap, feel free to contact me and I can leak like links. I don't think it's wrong to leak them, but I think they'd prefer to know with how much people they're planning with. And it's on Sunday, so if we talk about it now, there's not going to be like 10,000s of people that join because of us.
Yeah, I'm actually using Liquid Soap for video streaming for a community TV station. And I was actually like 6 months ago hacking LibreTime to figure out how possible is it to use it for a TV station. And I got sidetracked. But that's something I'll be working on. Liquid Soap is really good, but it also has like some glitches. Like I love it. I've been loving it for like a long time. But it has, at least for video, it's like one thing it happens. It's that you start the stream, like you're streaming to Icecast, say, and at some point it gets desynced. I don't know why, but like if you start like receiving the stream in a browser and like you're watching it for like 5 minutes, then when you like start a different like stream, getting a different stream, it should be kind of in the same like time of the video, and it can be a completely different video on the playlist. So it's doing something like funky. But yeah, like getting closer to the Liquid Soap community will be definitely something really good for the project.
I just recently built video stuff into the RPM packages I use to deploy Liquid Soap. And doing that, I also had to enable FFmpeg. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to that part of the future of Liquid Soap. Also, the future of LibreTime in maybe TV contexts.
Yeah.
I've recently done the same with Liquid Soap and Debian. It now supports FFmpeg and SRT eventually when I package everything, all the dependencies that lead up to that.
Oh, nice. So we probably have feature parity again with regards to, well, maybe you have AAC, I don't know, but
in non-free, yes, as a dynamic module.
I personally stopped even supporting the non-free AAC stuff because I came to the realization that the FTK ASC codec just isn't worth it. It sounds bad. A professional AAC Plus codec, which you need pay money for, sounds so much better. It's nah. If you do talk radio, maybe.
Cool. So yeah, anyone who's interested in joining, we look forward to seeing you there. I think
Having one a month after.
yeah,
What we didn't do was actually like set a date for it, and I'd
Yeah.
be very glad if we could like set the date.
yeah.
Possibly
I've got-
right now. We can still discuss it, but
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely before the end of the meeting, I'd like to have a date, and ideally a time, but that I think is a bit more flexible for the next one.
for me the thing is I need to like hop onto the next meeting like when
Okay.
ours is done.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
So
So
that's
then
why I'm bringing it up right
let's
now.
sort it now then. Do we want to do every 2 months? Do we want to do every month? What kind of frequency are we looking at?
I think last time we were talking about monthly and then didn't do one in December because of like Christmas or the holidays. So for me, I'm still up for monthly.
I think monthly is okay.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So then Feb.
Maybe second Wednesday each month.
Okay, so that's the 10th of Feb.
That
For
should
me, the third Wednesday would actually be much more convenient.
Okay,
If
so the
that works
17th.
for you all as well, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just saying that if we look to December this year, we will face Christmas like same time this year and second week December won't. But
For
yeah,
We could
whatever.
we could always do an earlier one in December, so we
Sure.
don't if we're or we could yeah.
Or
Or we could
even
have
just do, or even just do 11 per year, because December, at least in my culture, is a pain all year.
Yeah.
And skipping one of 12 doesn't
Yeah.
seem like too
It's
bad.
perfect.
And also, it's something we can decide like in a
Yeah.
couple of meetups time.
Yes. Let's survive to December first.
Yeah, it's much more important and also much more challenging right now.
Yeah, it is definitely.
Okay, cool. So let's look at the 17th of Feb. In terms of timing, I've kind of stuck with 1900 UTC mainly because it allows for both the States and Europe. Does that work?
Works
Well,
for me.
obviously, it doesn't work for the people that it didn't work this time, but I do think it's the sensible thing to do.
Okay, I will put it up on discourse, and if anyone's got any issues and wants something, they can chime in. But yeah, so I think let's provisionally say 1900 UTC.
Yeah.
Yep. Sounds good.
Yeah.
Awesome. Cool. And then cool. Is there anything else? Any other business? Anything anyone wants to raise? Last little bit.
I'm looking forward to seeing you all on Liquid Shop on this Sunday. Thanks to everyone for all of their effort. Thanks, Kyle, especially for organizing these meetups. It's awesome that we get to do
Yeah,
this.
it's a pleasure. Thanks for coming.
But yeah, that's it from me. Thanks.
Cool, and I don't see anything in the chat except Trapple Gate says, "Thank you for having me. I'm very new but excited to learn." Well, we're great to we're excited to have you on board.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Cool. Thanks a lot, everyone, and we'll see you all back here on the 17th of Feb.
Sounds great.
Awesome. Yeah.
Cool.
Bye bye.